To this Visible Thread webinar. My name is Micheál McGrath. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Visible Thread, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you here today. We have a fabulous presentation. We're going to talk about generative AI. We're going to talk about the recent updates in Visi Writer. So if you're aware of that product, it's a great chance to see the new updates. If you're not, you're going to see a full view. So we have a kind of a great presentation. We have JP and Casey here today to kind of bring you through everything. But before I start, before we get into kind of nuts and bolts of the presentation, I'll go through a little bit of housekeeping to help this webinar stay interactive and move along. So the first things first, the main question everyone asks is recording. Will I get a recording? Will I get slides? Yes, you will. You're going to get them almost straight away. So via email, the website, the slides and recording will be on the website tomorrow, and you should receive them via email earliest next week. So look forward to seeing those. There's also resources kind of listed throughout the presentation. You'll notice that they're all in the resources section underneath the screen. All the resources are open source. They're all free. Feel free to check them out. We have lots of upcoming events. We actually have a free trial for Visi Writer. So if you like what you see and you want to trial it today, you can jump straight into that free trial. So that's a great resource, and all that is free and available in the console below. The final thing, and the most important thing, is our webinars are meant to be interactive. We want questions from the audience. We'd really like to hear your opinions, your thoughts. There's two places to do so. We have an attendee chat, which allows you to network and see who else is on the call and chat amongst yourselves. Let us know where you're coming from today. If you've been on Visible Thread webinars before, we'd love to hear from you. So use that attendee chat. And we also have the Q&A box. The Q&A box goes directly to the speakers. They'll be able to see any questions. JP and Casey will answer questions as we go along throughout the presentation, but we will also leave time at the very end to tackle any questions. We also have, before I move on to the guest speakers, I'll just ask one poll question. There's a couple of poll questions throughout the presentation, so just get used to this. You can actually click the slides on the screen. So you can click, yes, I've attended webinars before, or yes, this is my first webinar, or no, I've been on them before. So feel free to click on the open buttons. You should be able to do so now. I can see some of you kind of clicking through. I'll give it a second there to get a full percentage going.
So we do a lot of these webinars, so hopefully we've got some repeat customers here.
Hopefully. Very good. Okay, moved on. Right. Okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to the two speakers. So we have Casey William, our business development representative, and we have JP, our sales director. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll leave it over to you.
Right. Hey, we appreciate you coming to this webinar. I talk to proposal folks pretty much every single day. It's tough enough for you guys to get 10 minutes for lunch, let alone come to a webinar. So we do really appreciate the time. Like Micheál said, I am Casey Willman. I'm a business development representative here at Visible Thread. I've been here for about 2 years. My primary responsibility is outreach to our prospects and current customers. Chances are, if you've downloaded something off our website, like a trial or an ebook or a case study, you've likely received a phone call from me or perhaps an email. My other responsibility is handling demos for small businesses looking to adopt the Visi Writer platform. JP will be handling the bulk of this presentation, including the demo. And JP, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing the bulk. You're doing a fair amount on your own too. But yeah, my name is JP Theodorakis. I am the director of sales here at Visible Thread. I do a lot of work, especially with small businesses, mid-sized businesses as well. Been with the company for over 3 years now. So hopefully any questions you put in the chat, I should be able to answer, but I will absolutely do my darndest. Based in the DC area, so maybe have met some of you in person before at some of our forums or at the summit. And I'm looking at this photo here that we have up there. It looks like that was a few pounds ago for both of us, Casey.
I don't know about for me. Yeah, I look vacation chubby there. So
I like it. I like it.
All right. We're on to the next slide. Okay, so what are we doing today? What are we going to be covering? Here's the agenda. So first, I will introduce Visible Thread and our two products. We will go through some poll questions so we can better understand who our audience is and how to cater the rest of the presentation. JP will then provide an education on the differences between deterministic and generative AI and the proper use cases for both. He will then do an interactive demo where you can see the platform in action. And then he'll cover our data and IT security capabilities. And then we'll open it up for Q&A and hopefully get some good questions, and we'll end it from there. So move on to the next slide. All right, so who is Visible Thread? So we're a software company that's been in business for 13 years now. Our company is based out of Dublin, Ireland, where most of our leadership, marketing, and engineering team resides, but most of our account executive team is here in the US. We offer two products. The first is VT Docs, which reviews critical business documentation, things such as RFPs, RFIs, SOWs, proposals, and contracts. And VT Docs is designed to boost your efficiency and ensure compliance by providing automation for the most time-consuming manual tasks that you have to go through. Things like creating a compliance matrix within seconds, extracting acronyms, comparing large documents, and go, no-go decision-making. The folks that use the platform are BD capture folks, compliance personnel, proposal managers, among others. And our secondary product here, this we're going to be covering today, is VT Writer, and it creates and scores important business documentation, like proposals. It's designed to optimize your proposal content by providing objective metrics like a readability and a grade level score. It also identifies passive voice and long sentences. Our latest update allows you to create and enhance the clarity of your content using generative AI. Our VT Writer platform is commonly used by SMEs, editorial managers, engineers, and then also marketing teams. Okay, so we work with hundreds of customers, thousands of users. We're a trusted partner in the GovCon space. We work with 11 out of the top 15 US government contractors. But we don't work with just large companies like Airbus or General Dynamics, Collins, or Lockheed. We also have 150 plus small to medium-sized businesses as well. All right, so we'll look at the poll question here, and I'm pretty new to this, but the question is, have you used VT Writer? Are you a current user, a previous user, perhaps maybe you've downloaded a trial, but you're not a license holder, or is this your first experience with VT Writer?
All right, are we seeing VT Writer homepage here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. All right, we're rolling. So a little bit of background on VT Writer here. So there is a big mix of technology that is out there right now. Generative AI obviously is hugely hyped up at the moment. So we've been really deliberate on where we use which types of technology across both of our platforms. In VT Writer, we're going to have both deterministic software. So think of that as that kind of classic 1 + 1 = 2 type software, as well as generative AI. Deterministic, great use case for when we need things to be 100% accurate and 100% repeatable every single time. No room for error. Think of that for building a compliance matrix, doing FAR, DFAR analysis, things like that. Within VT Writer, we have that deterministic within a scoring mode, getting objective feedback on our writing. It will tell us if we're writing at a 30th grade reading level and nobody can understand us, or if we're writing at a 12th grade reading level, a lot more easy to understand. So we have that paired with the generative AI. Don't know how familiar everybody is with Gen AI, but it's based off of an LLM, a large language model, and it's basically predicting what should come next in a sequence of terms. So those results are not going to be 100% accurate. They're not going to be 100% repeatable, but that's why it's really good for creative tasks where close enough is good enough. We wouldn't use Gen AI to shred out a document to create a compliance matrix, but helping us get off that blank page and kind of more so for those creative tasks, that's really where it comes into its own. So on the VT Writer homepage, a few main things you can do here. You can upload and analyze entire documents. You can start to create and edit documents. you can analyze text snippets. So if you just want to copy in a paragraph, an email, anything like that, we can analyze that. As you can see at the top here, we have the Microsoft Word add-in here. This is where I assume most of you are doing your writing. So we'll spend most of our time in the demo in the Word add-in. Last thing I want to point out on the home screen here are watchwords. Don't know if you guys are VTDocs users, if you played around with dictionaries, but these watchwords are going to kind of act like a dictionary. They're basically automated style guides. So this is that deterministic factor within VTDocs or VTWriter as well. These are customizable lists of terms, phrases, words, any cliche jargon we want to avoid. We can customize this so then it will be flagged in our writing across all of our users here. So this is universal access to these watchword lists to ensure quality and consistency across our writers. Point out a few, like leverage is a classic. Don't say leverage, just say use. Don't say as may be required, just say as required. This can be spelling of certain terms, how we want to write out our company name, etc. So wanted to point out watchwords list because you'll see that in the Word plugin here. So as I jump into Word, you're going to see here, I have an executive summary uploaded here, and you're going to see on the right that VTWriter Word plugin here. Here are the core key metrics that we track within VTWriter. We're going to show you how many long sentences there are, the amount of passive voice. We will give you a readability score here. This is based off of the Flesch-Kincaid formula. The higher this score, the better. And then we'll tell you the grade level as well. This is kind of that canary in the coal mine here, telling us if this is overly complex, if it's not. North American standard is 8th to 10th grade, but you can customize this based on the content you're creating. If you're writing really technical stuff, probably not going to be writing at an 8th grade reading level. So let's start off and look at actually editing content we already have. So maybe this is something an SME wrote and we want to check it. This is past performance docs we want to look through. Let's edit this quickly and efficiently. So we'll look at this first paragraph here. TXD Network Technologies LLC, the leader in global network data fusion, analysis, and visualization, is offering its off-the-shelf suite of global network analysis tools to the Department of Homeland Security, National Communication Systems, response to solicitation PSHF 03, blah, blah, blah. That's a lot. Let's simplify that down. Let's make it more readable for our person reviewing this document. So I can see that deterministic factor. This paragraph is a grade level of 21. It is 2 sentences that are 41 words long and 31 words long. We know for a fact that is accurate. So instead of having to go in and try to... Yep.
I'm going to interrupt there slightly. I think you're just sharing one screen. So if you're sharing, if you want to, you're just sharing your browser tab. So if you just unshare and then share again, and then share your entire screen.
Here we go. This.
And I'll tell you if you're there.
Seeing the Word plugin now?
Correct. Thank you.
There we go.
Cool. Sorry. So this is that scoring that we saw. The long sentences, the passive voice, readability, grade level. Here's that super long paragraph I read out loud to you all. The scoring of this paragraph and the word count for this paragraph. So now let's use Gen AI to rewrite this. All I need to do is click the Simplify button, and then VTWriter will give me a few options here. So we get 3 rewrites for us. We can see this was a grade level of 21. It is now 5.4, a 7.8, and a 12.1. So here, this is where the human factor comes back into play. I can either just plug one of these in, I can pick and choose pieces from these, or kind of put them all together and make my own judgment. Let's just say I'll plug in the 7.8. Great. Let's go back onto the next thing. Here's a watchword saying combine. Let's just change it to mix. Plug it in. Here we've got a 38 word long sentence, almost a 30th grade reading level. Let's simplify. Again, it'll rewrite this content for us to help us move through this quicker, and most importantly, ensure that this content is of high quality and it is readable for our reviewers. Here they are, 6.7, 9.2, 10.5. Let's just plug one in. Now, I'll come back to the start. We'll say we went through this whole document, and we can now reanalyze this entire thing to see how did our edits affect the document as a whole. Maybe we just want to run this report and send it back to whoever wrote this for us. Or if I'm the one writing, I can obviously get a higher level view of my document to see how it affected it. We can see long sentences went down. Passive voice actually went up here. That's something we have to consider with Gen AI, right? It's predicting. There can be hallucinations. That's where that human factor really still is involved in this process. But our readability score went up and our grade level went down. Excellent. That's what we want to see. Put it on.
JP, do you want to pause? You want to pause for questions just for a second?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat about what JP's covered so far. And we apologize for the technical difficulties that we had. But if there's anything that you guys would like to know more about or a question on something JP has just covered, please feel free to throw it in the chat.
Cool. And while we're doing that, we'll clear up. Good to go?
Good to go. Okay, no questions.
Cool. So that's scoring, editing content we already have. Now, talked about kind of starting from scratch, getting off that blank page. It's a huge challenge, whether you're writing a proposal, writing an email, writing a book. It's a difficult task to overcome. So this is, again, great use case for Gen AI to help us get the bones of our content. Again, Gen AI is not going to be able to write us an entire proposal. We'll still have to go in and review that whole thing, cross-check it, see if it's compliant, but we can use it to get started here. So within VT Writer, we also have the creator mode. Name of our AI is Visi, which I think is adorable here. But another cool thing, just like those watchwords, where they're universal, all users have access to it, we have universal prompts here. You can standardize and centralize these prompts. And if you've played with ChatGPT, Copilot, anything like that, prompting is super important. If you put in a bad prompt, you're going to get a bad output. So this way, all of our users don't have to be prompting wizards. They have access to these standardized prompts. See, we have some for proposal teams, resumes, editing, marketing, etc. So I'm just going to pick this first one. Create a draft RFI response. We can see the prompt itself down at the bottom. Create an RFI response is for the government agency called, and we'll say this is the CDC. See these purple sections prompting us what to prompt within the prompt. Customizing this further. The RFI is called Procurement 101. Include cover letter, table of contents. The project is to, and we'll say the project is to streamline and digitize the procurement process. Include an overview of the project or challenge. Make sure we cover out of these, put in more specifics here so we can get this more targeted, and then just run this. Here we go. Plug that in. Here's a better starting point for us. We can now start to review this, see what we need to edit, what we need to change. Do we need to customize this a little bit more? Absolutely. But again, we're getting off that blank page, getting to a much better starting point. And of course, we can go back and score. Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, JP, we do have a question, might be pertinent right now. Does the AI suggestions take your watchwords into account? That's from Jacob Collins.
Great question. So the Gen AI will not take those watchwords into account because those watchwords aren't part of the LLM it's pulling from. However, if we were to reanalyze this thing, it will flag those watchwords if they are in there. That's, again, where that pairing of deterministic with Gen AI is so important here to make sure we're keeping that Gen AI in check it's not hallucinating. If we tell it to write at a 12th grade reading level, it might do that. It might not. If we tell it avoid these words, it will do its best to do so. But again, it's guessing. It's predicting what will come next in a sequence of terms and phrases. So those watchwords won't be included in here, but they will be flagged once we score this entire document here. Great question. Anything else there, Casey?
I don't see any other questions at the moment.
Cool. And we'll let this analyze here, maybe a minute or two to get through. And then we'll finish up back within the web browser itself, look at a few other key features that we'll finish out the demo with. My internet isn't cooperating. We can just jump back in and come back. So let's do this. And then I should be able to. Are we in the web browser here, Casey?
Yes, yes, sir.
Cool. So watchwords, that's what we're looking at here. This is also where we can edit those prompts if we want to. Edit those right within the web browser. And then last thing I will touch on here is VT Writer Insights. So we've looked at a lot of the functionality, how to use the software, different use cases for it. But I'm going to go into insights here. So especially if we have larger user groups, this will actually give us oversight of the entire user group here to see how is our content performing over time. We can track usage over time across all of our users. We can see what kind of content we're analyzing. We can see the grade level over time, and we can see those watchwords over time. We can dig deeper into usage and adoption. We can look into quality. So I'll jump in here. Here, we'll dig deeper into that quality metric, grade level, readability, long sentences, passive voice. Where are we doing well? Where do we need to improve? We can look at this by user, teams, and content. I'll jump into users here, and I'll throw myself under the bus. So here I am. I can see I'm writing at a 13.6 grade reading level. Might be the highest on the list. Nice job, me. I can see my long. You were, I don't know. Oh, you're right here. 9.8. Good work.
Not bad. Not bad.
So I can see I need to work on my long sentences. I've seen people kind of gamify this, check in to see where do I need to improve, where am I doing well, areas that I need to focus on. Clearly, I write lots of run-on sentences. You can probably hear by the way that I talk, I use a lot of words here. Cool. I'll put a pause there for questions as well. And let me know if we're good to go, Casey.
Yeah, I think, Michal, you were going to share your screen as well.
I will. So, yeah, apologies for the slides. We're going to go back to that now. JP, that was excellent. One question that did pop up there in the middle of the chat is there any functionality in like the word browser? You showed the browser version there and creating content in the browser, and there's the word add-in as well, so you can use it directly in the add-in. Is there a major difference between the two? Do they kind of come together? How does all that work?
Yeah, no, there's really not much of a major difference. It's honestly personal preference. You can do everything you did in the word add-in in the browser. The browser will have your access to insights, but mostly the work that you're doing, you can do in both. I showed the word add-in because that's where I've seen most of our customers using VT Writer. That's because where you're doing your writing. So it's taking away that step from uploading documents. You can just do it live in an active document.
Very good, very good. That answers that. And there's I suppose at a higher enterprise level, there is additional reporting in the browser version for certain users. Correct. If you want your admin to see some of the reporting elements that JP showed there, you can see that in the browser level. But it's quite condensed on the word add-in. Now, okay, let's go back to the slides. JP, yourself and Casey talked about like deterministic software versus generative AI. I'm going to share a slide. I hope now it all works okay this time.
We can see it, Neil.
Brilliant. Okay, fab. So there's the slide. I suppose, JP, you talked about deterministic software, generative AI. You gave a good understanding when you were demoing through. But do you want to take it from this slide and we'll work down through?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a point that I have been driving home with customers, myself, my wife, who's addicted to ChatGPT. So there is a big difference between these two. And like I said, we are super deliberate on where we use these. There's a right time and there's a wrong time to use each of them. I'll say this again. I'll say this 100 more times this week. Deterministic, when we need something 100% accurate, 100% repeatable. Think of that control find thing in Word. That's what we'll get into actually in the next slide. I believe in the next couple slides, we'll see that. When we need, sorry, go back up, Mihal. We need accuracy. We can't miss anything. Go back to deterministic. Yep. We need accuracy. We can't miss anything. Compliance in our industry is a necessity, right? We cannot not be compliant. That's why we need the deterministic. If we need to see, are we compliant with these FAR clauses? Are we not? Do these need to flow down to a subcontractor? What has changed between two versions of a document? How long is this sentence? What is the readability score? That's all deterministic because we need it to be accurate. We can't have hallucinations there. That word hallucinations has skyrocketed in the past couple of years. Generative AI, again, for those creative tasks, I love the phrase, when close enough is good enough, right? We're not going to use this for highly analytical things. It's for those creative processes. Think of Gen AI kind of works like, if I asked you all, the dog chased the blank, what would you say? Probably say cat, right? But that's how Gen AI works. It's guessing. That's probably what it should be. But you could say the dog chased the man, the dog chased the car. It's kind of how Gen AI works and why you need to be super careful about when and where to use it. Go ahead, Mihal. Along that lines of when and where, there's 3 simple questions. The Gen AI test here, pretty darn straightforward. Said 2 of these already to ad nauseum. Do I need 100% accurate results? If you say yes, probably shouldn't use Gen AI. Do I need 100% repeatable results? Do I need the same output every single time? If the answer is yes, probably shouldn't use Gen AI. Do you need to know the logic of how you got those results? Right? Again, not Gen AI, because it's pulling from such a huge data set, pulling from those LLMs, it's guessing. So if the answer is yes to any of those 3 questions, I wouldn't use Gen AI for that task. Go ahead. Right, when not to use Gen AI, but when should we be using Gen AI? It's a fantastic tool. I use it at work. I use it in my personal life. Use it to help draft emails, review any kind of documents I put out, customer facing. I'll use Gen AI to review that, to edit it. I use it to create itineraries for trips, get a good overview. What should I be doing? So that's kind of, again, those creative tasks. It's fantastic for text creation, text simplification and editing, and text summarization. Again, when that close enough is good enough, absolutely use Gen AI, save yourself some time, and make sure it's quality. Always get that human review in there. Can't trust it 100%, but it is a great tool to help us start the race a little bit further down the track. Go ahead. Common challenges. I think I addressed at least a few of these within the demo today, but these are common challenges we see from our customers. Doesn't really matter if they're a 1-2 person consultancy or they're a massive organization like a Boeing or a Lockheed. Probably the biggest one on this list are those highly manual processes, right? We don't want to have to go through and review content over and over and over again. Let technology do some of that work for us. Let it give us some of that objective feedback. So we don't have to be the mean English teacher reviewing people's content. Or if we're in VT Docs creating compliance matrix, we're not copying and pasting line by line. Good combination between those first 2 challenges. Third one on the list, create content from scratch. You saw that live. I've talked about it enough, helping us get off that blank page. And probably the fourth biggest one I see here, or fourth and five, achieving a single tone of voice. That is so difficult to do, especially when there are 5, 10, 20 people contributing to a document. How do you keep that intact? How do you keep that together? If I'm someone reviewing an entire proposal, that is so hard to do on my own. Let technology help you. Let you get that objective feedback, get the same edits, use those watchwords to ensure we're using the same consistent language there. And then fourth or fifth one I'll touch on here is using AI in a secure environment. We are in an industry where security is extremely, extremely important. Right? Most of our content has to be secure. Our customers' content has to be secure. So VT Writer and VT Docs can be deployed within your environment, behind your firewall, be 100% secure for you. So those are kind of the five that I like to usually call out. But if any on this screen are really standing out to anybody, throw them in the chat, let us know. If there's anything that is not on this screen, do the same thing. Throw it in there and we'll see if we can address it.
Oh, I love that. Actually, that's a great call out. If there is anything that like you feel like that's not being addressed that you think Gen AI can solve, absolutely throw it in the attendee chat or in the Q&A box. We'd love to kind of hear about it and hear about some specific problems. JP, there's this one question. Is there any particular use case that just stands out the most, where you see it all the time, where nearly every conversation that pops up?
Yeah, it's two, I would say, that always come up. People come in wanting to see VT Writer for the Gen AI aspect. They love that, right? Getting content going, editing content. That's an easy one. Everybody can use that. But I think the second piece to that question, with the objective feedback and scoring, people aren't usually expecting that, and it can be huge. If I know I need to write to a customer's language to their grade level, I'll say, how do I do that as a person, right? How do I totally understand that my writing is understandable? That's so difficult to do. So that's where that scoring really comes into play. I'll see customers run an RFP through VT Writer, see the grade level, see the kind of the average sentence length, stuff like that. And then I'll write my proposal to those same metrics. So we can customize. How is the actual customer writing? How should we be writing? So I'd say those are probably the two biggest use cases right off the bat.
Very good. Nearly, Casey, I think it's interesting even from your perspective as well. Like you have a lot of the initial starting points of people who are really interested in VT Writer coming to you. Is there anything there that stood out to you that's like, okay, this is the reason people call, or this is the first conversation?
So far, I think, getting the grade level score is huge. And then people are always wowed by the simplify button. Being able to simplify a long sentence, to bring the grade level down, to have those choices. Now, you still have to read the options, right? But it's a much quicker way to go about it. And then being able to reanalyze the document from there. I think also the proposal template creation is great to get started. But I have worked with other writers that are not involved with proposals, where maybe they're a blog writer and they want to get started writing a blog post. The generative AI will handle that as well. So there's a lot of different use cases there. But as I initially run some of these meetings, I've really enjoyed to see what people gravitate to. But that's sort of the main ones.
Awesome. Well, look, everybody, keep putting your questions in. We actually, I'm going to give JP and Casey a little break, and hopefully this works perfectly. We have, if you're still like trying to comprehend the differences between deterministic software and Gen AI software, we do have an example. The example is by Fergal, our CEO. He looks at these examples all the different times of how to shape it, how to use the best of technology for the best problem. So I think this is really accurate. I think it points in well. And then after this, we're going to start talking a little bit more about like the security elements of VT Writer, like why we stand out, why we're different to other vendors. And I think this helps. But I'm just going to press play on this, and it should appear in a few seconds.
Hey there, my name is Fergal McGovern. I'm the CEO and founder of Visible Thread, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share a little bit about what Gen AI is good for and what it's maybe not so good for in the context of Microsoft Word. And this hopefully will help you understand a little bit about where to apply it and so forth. So look, let's set the scene. This is the NASA SOUP contract. This is a very large IDIQ, about 150 pages or so, and you can see that it's got the usual stuff, various sections and so forth. So one of the classic things you'll do within this is search. You might be searching for indemnification clauses, or indeed if you're a kind of a techie person, a solutioning person, you might be searching for something like cybersecurity. So I'm going to go ahead and look for cybersecurity. And you'll notice that we're seeing 27 occurrences of cybersecurity. And as I click on the left, I'm finding the exact occurrence in the context of the document on the right-hand side. So far, so good. All of what you're seeing here is quote-unquote deterministic approaches. We're using, well, not we, but Microsoft are using search. They're using pattern searches to find the occurrence accurately, 100% accurately. And if we try this again tomorrow, we'll get exactly 27 results. So this is the idea that certain software is repeatable and accurate every time. Great. Let's do the exact same thing using Microsoft Copilot. Now we're switching here. Copilot is basically an app that fits in Microsoft Word. It is underpinned by a large language model that's generative AI. And I'm going to ask it the same question. So how many occurrences of cyber security are in this doc? Good. So I'm just going to whack that in there. What's happening right now is that the Copilot app is asking the large language model to look at the document and to give us an assessment of the number of occurrences. And, just like a moment ago, we saw 27 occurrences, you would probably expect 27. But given the fact that it's a large language model, it's actually predicting the next word in a sequence of word. And it says here, the term cybersecurity appears in the document a total of 3 times. And here are the occurrences. You can see there, occurrence 1, 2, and 3. So here's a great kind of, hopefully a very real example of where you should not use a large language model for a job that requires 100% accuracy and 100% repeatability. So in this case, we'd be crazy to use LLMs for searching documents like this. Equally, we'd be crazy to use it for things like shredding a document accurately or comparing docs. So look, I hope this made sense. I hope you found it useful. And I'll hand you back to your Visible Thread presenter. Thanks so much.
Okay, so thanks, Fergal. Fergal jumps in every now and again to support us, but all very helpful. But I hope that's just another example. Like JP talked about deterministic versus Gen AI. He showed some really good use cases of Gen AI, but there's not such a good example of where it can be used and where you might need something that's deterministic. And if you have any more kind of questions of like good and bad use cases, or you're wondering about what's right for the problem you're trying to solve, there's no better people than JP and Casey really to kind of point you in the right direction and help explain your specific question. Now, if you do have a question and you want us to answer it today, absolutely drop it into the chat. Now, we'll move on, right? So we will go back to the slides. And this slide represents some of the security implications of putting something like an AI product, putting Visi Writer in particular into your platform. So I'll pass you back to JP.
Yeah, I touched on security a little bit, but can't talk about it enough. I spend a lot of my time talking with IT teams, figuring out how we want this deployed here. So VT Docs, Writer, you can deploy them behind your firewall. It is a huge point we need to get across here. But just a couple little tips here, a little bit more information about that. So if you are handling proprietary, sensitive, classified documents or content, I would not be using public cloud-based LLM. I wouldn't just be throwing something into ChatGPT that is secure, proprietary. Anything that is kind of open to the web, we don't want to use. That's why we need this Gen AI, these LLMs, to be secure for us. That is a huge point of risk. Next point there, That number is not an exaggeration, and that was a kind of an outdated number already, but there's 748,000 different models out there. That is an insane number, and it is growing exponentially. We at Visible Thread use Llama 3 as our LLM here. That is Meta's LLM model. It is top tier, but we are LLM agnostic. So what does that mean? That means if you all want to deploy VT Writer in your environment, you can use LLM or you can use one of your own choosing. So kind of all that being said, if you are hosting this yourselves, there's zero external communication with the world. We don't have access to your content. It's 100% behind your firewall, zero risk. So if security is a point of interest, which I'm sure it is, I always suggest host this yourselves, make it secure, make it easy, answer all those questions.
Very good.
All right. Like Mihal said, we do have some resources that are available here in the webinar, but also you will get the recording and slides. You can download them from our website. For the first resource here, we have Generative AI Pitfalls. I talk to people every day, and I always mention AI, specifically generative AI, and everyone is curious. But what questions do you need to be asking yourself? So what this does is it provides a checklist for things like data privacy concerns, AI hallucinations, and a lot more. It just keeps you nice and organized as you start looking at generative AI and incorporating that into your organization. Can we move on to the next slide, Mia?
There you go.
All right, and then we also have a couple case studies that we'd like to share with you. The first one is Sun Life, which is one of our largest VT Writer clients. They experienced a 19% reduction in their help desk calls because the writing was just much more clear on their correspondence, especially with their customer communications. So, 19% reduction is a lot, and it goes into other details as well. The second case study is Pragmatics, which is a small business. They were able to increase their win rate, and it talks about the different automations that they use to get there. Fabulous case studies. Definitely take a look at those.
Yeah, and I would just say on the website, we have a ton of case studies. Go in there, check them out. Website has tons and tons of resources for you.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing is check us out on Capterra. We have a lot of great reviews there. If you are a current user of Visible Thread, whether you use Docs or Writer, write us a review as well. Look at the first one there. Margaret at a defense and space company, she said it took me an hour and a half to finish the same amount of work I'd done in the previous 6 days. I'm going to take a guess that Margaret was probably doing a compliance matrix by hand. I just talked to someone this morning at a large defense contractor, and he said, this RFP I'm working on right now is 3,000 pages. It took me a week to create a compliance matrix, and I was able to get started on the new one I'm working on within just a day. And he was just glowing with praise about the compliance shred. So that's probably what Margaret's referring to. All right, next slide, Mio.
Now, time to move on to Q&A, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will stop sharing there for a second just to open up the screen. But there's one note, and I think it's really poignant from Jacob on the metric, like just mainly the metrics that are in VT Writer. Okay, you got grade level, you got readability, you got passive voice. Those metrics, and what he points at is just that they're kind of objective and they're straightforward metrics that people can understand and understand how they're being calculated. And they provide as a really good persuasion technique to improve a piece of content to potentially their subject matter experts. So if you're dealing with something that's really technical, but you're struggling to make your content quality or persuasive or to kind of tie it into a decent story, these metrics can be an incredible tool. So thanks, Jacob, for pointing out that. Mm-hmm. And I'd even pass that kind of question to JP or Casey. Like, do you find that those metrics come up often in terms of like being almost a bargaining chip for writers and proposal writers? Is okay, at least this is something people can get and understand.
For sure. I think he put it a lot more poignantly than I did. I said, you know, you don't have to be the mean English teacher. But Jacob said, use the metrics to persuade our subject matter experts to alter their approach to writing. So I think that's a way better way to say it. So thank you, Jacob, for saying that. But yeah, it makes it so much easier. If I'm someone reviewing, getting a whole bunch of input from different sources, I don't have to be the one personally reviewing, personally giving them feedback. They can say, hey, it's not me. Visible Thread's telling me these are tunnel long sentences. You got to change it. Here you go. Use Visi to rewrite it.
Very good, very good. A question that popped up in the middle of everything there was in relation to kind of prompting. One client said, look, I don't really know much about prompting. Is there a possibility of like sharing prompts? How do prompts work in VT Writer? Is it completely on the onus of the user? Is there any sort of kind of prompt kind of storage scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'll say, I always like to shout out our customer success team. They're awesome. They're fantastic. They will work with you to help get started, whether it's Docs or Writer. So we can work on getting prompts in. We will have some standardized ones in there for you to get started. So some basic things help you kind of learn what a prompt should look like. So we will absolutely help you get started. If you customize some of your own prompts, if you found them to be helpful, those can be stored right in VT Writer. They are standardized. They are centralized. All of our users will have access to it. So yes.
Very good, very good. That's actually quite unique. Like in marketing, there's a lot of tools, like general tools for, you know, supporting some content creation and marketing, but being able to save prompts seems to be something that's quite unique from VT Writer and incredibly handy, because you find yourself, when you get used to using prompts, you use the same ones over and over again, and it is frustrating to having to keep typing them out. And just, especially when you get your language right and you get the output that you want, it is great to be able to save them and share them amongst colleagues and use them kind of wide ranging. It's the same for watchword lists. Like there was a big impact when watchword lists were shareable across an organization, across multiple teams. There's a big impact when you can kind of, especially if you're not the strongest writer in the world, being able to share those assets and that technique across everybody is just great.
Within those prompts too, right? Those little purple sections where it's prompting you how to customize them. Sure, I know I'm extremely biased as a Visible Thread employee, but I really did find that as a great teaching point. Saying, okay, this is how I should be writing prompts. I shouldn't just be like, hey, write an RFI response about XYZ. Getting real detailed with it, knowing where to customize, where not to. I mean, that was extremely helpful for me as I started using Gen AI.
I know the answer to this, but I see it popped up, is in the scoring element of VT Writer. Mm-hmm. Is that deterministic, or is it Gen AI is what the question is trying to get to? Is the scoring of grade level and passive voice, is that 100%? And how does that work? Is it using both, or what, or how is that? How are you managing to do both, I suppose? Or is it using both?
That is deterministic, and we decided to do that very deliberately. Virgil's video did a great job, right? Cybersecurity says, 3 times with Gen AI, but it was actually in there 26 times. If you ask Gen AI to write a document at a 10th grade reading level, it'll do its best, but it's not going to get there. That's why those set parameters within deterministic software are so important for scoring. Because if it says this is a readability level of 36, you know for a fact this is a readability level of 36.
Very good, very good. And there's one last piece, and it just refers back to the free trial and things like that. But okay, where to go next? Like, can I access it today? How do I get up and running, or what's the next best step? And even both of you, I'm sure you have your own opinions. What's the next way to move on?
Yeah, Casey, I'll leave you for that one.
I'm sorry, Mio, I didn't catch the question there. It kind of faded out.
Next steps in regards, if they want to get up and running on VT Writer, what would you suggest for them?
Yeah, there's always the VT Writer trial. You have full access to the generative AI plus the deterministic portion with the scoring, which is exactly what JP showed today. The other thing to do is to meet with one of our account executives. It could be JP, it could be myself, it could be one of our other account executives, to go through a personalized demo where they can learn more about the current pain you're experiencing with your writing, be able to go through the platform, answer any personal questions that you have. It usually only takes about 30, 45 minutes or so. But as I'm working through, the cadence with the recording and slides, there'll be a few emails that come out. If you email me back and let me know that you would like that personalized demo, I'll be happy to schedule that with you.
Fabulous. Okay. Well, look, I'll finish out the webinar. First of all, I'll thank JP and Casey for their time. They were super and really informative and managed to tackle all the technical difficulties in good style as well, which is great. But yeah, super work, guys. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Happy to be here.
Very, very good. And if you do have more questions for JP or Casey specifically, feel free to reach out to them in the follow-up when you get the recording and slides and everything. But there is lots to come from VT and Visible Thread. There's lots of upcoming webinars and different content that is coming in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to highlight a few elements. There is actually a 4-part series that you can register all in one go. So that's available in the resources section underneath. It's the GovCon Trailblazers campaign. It's a very, very exciting campaign. It's tackling buy-in and cooperation. It's tackling data management. We're going to do some best practices about SharePoint in that webinar. We're going to tackle some of the common inefficiencies that we see in GovCon and how to remove some common mistakes. And we're going to talk about AI from a higher level. So Fergal and Heather Murray. Heather Murray is an expert coming from the UK who's focused on AI and asking the right questions to GovCon leaders, or to AI software leaders. Fergal is taking the hot seat there and going to be asked all the difficult questions about AI, and I've no doubt Fergal will tackle them really well. And the final webinar that's coming up in October is about risk management. So we have an expert panel. Many are members of NCMA. We have some representative from the US government joining us as well. That's going to be a fantastic kind of discussion all about risk management and mitigation in GovCon. Finally, last but not least, we have some upcoming in-person events. So if you're on the West Coast, and I can see some of you are, which is fantastic, feel free to meet us in person. We'd love to get to know you and to give you kind of a full demo in person and answer any questions you may have. We're in Anaheim in the middle of October, and we're actually traveling to Alexandria in Virginia in November for our VT Summit. So those 2 upcoming events are going to be very poignant, and if they're great chances to meet Visible Thread in person. So if you want access to those events or would like to register, you can drop the link below in the resources section, and everything should be available to you there. So that's all very exciting. Lastly, but not least, we'd love to have all your feedback. If you have any questions for the speakers, if you like any comments about the webinar, if you want us to tackle any future topics, feel free to kind of message in the survey section when this webinar closes or on the right-hand side of the screen right now. Finally, thank you for spending your day with us and for giving us an hour of your time. We're delighted that you spent some time with us today, and look forward to seeing you at the next Visible Thread webinar. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.